Okay, let's speak today about the Heichal. Yesterday we spoke about and we learned about the kalim that are inside the Heichal, the vessels that are inside the Heichal. The menorah, which its purpose is to shed light, to draw down the godly energy into the worlds. We spoke about the idea of the shulchan, that its purpose is to elevate the world to Hashem. That's all the inside part of the inside, the spiritual part of a person in his world. Let's go now up to the actual Heichal, the actual structure, the main structure of the Beis HaMikdash. In order to go up, you had to go up 12 steps. Now, we'll get also to the back, the important part, which is the Kodesh HaKodashim, but let's start as a person goes in. As a person goes in, he comes from the east, he goes up 12 steps. Over here is what's called the Ulam. We learned a bit about it yesterday. This is the inside of the Ulam. Here was the door with the curtain that's on the door. Here you go to the Heichal. So if we get the idea, the width of the Ulam, according to the way it's described, is 20 ames by 20 ames. 20 ames by 11 ames, which means if you look at this area, this doorway, the door of entrance, the width of the door is 20 ames wide. The height of the doorway is 40 ames wide. The entire interior of the Kodesh, of this structure of the building, the entire interior was 20 ames wide and 40 ames wide. That interior is the interior of the Ulam as well. 40 ames high because, as we know, the entire building of the Heichal was 100 ames high, but on the inside is 40 ames. Under the steps, there is the foundation, which is 6 ames, and then in the inside the ceiling itself, the thickness of the ceiling is 4 ames. So the interior from ceiling to roof is 40 ames. That is the doorway of the Ulam, and also the width is 20 ames. Now, the actual width of the Ulam itself is all of 11 ames. It's interesting because there is an area on the side of the Ulam. This area from the doorway onwards is not really considered the Ulam. The Ulam is the hall. It's just the entrance hall from the doorway up until the entrance to the Heichal. What is the Ulam and what's its purpose? As you can see over here in the Ulam, there were wooden beams. Their purpose was to hold up the walls. The walls are so high to keep them strong, so there were wooden beams to support the walls. There was also, as we learned last time, there was these chains where the Kohanim can go up and they can see these crowns that were above in windows above the door of the Heichal. From the time of the first Beis HaMikdash, the young Kohanim would go look at these crowns and it would give them an excitement in their godly service, would inspire them to fear Hashem, etc. There was the golden grapes, like we said, that it was a golden vine that actually gave fruit. It bore fruit, golden fruit. This over here is the is a sort of like a chandelier that was given by the Queen Hilni. As we mentioned last time, some people drew it on the outside of the door or on the inside of the door. The point of it is that it was golden and therefore it caught the sun's rays in order to show them at the first light of the sun that they should know to light the to bring the carbon tamid. Over here also, we can see outside on the Ulam, on the doorway of the Ulam. Here he has in this model he made the same thing, the same chandelier, the golden chandelier, made it outside. But the idea of it is that it catches the sun rays. And even when they're inside, they know that it's time to bring the carbon tamid because they can catch the first rays of the sun. Outside of the Ulam, this was a design. This is 5 beams, 5 wooden beams. The first one was stuck out over the doorway of the ulam, 1 amma on each side. So it's 22 ammas. The second one was an amma extra on each side. That's 24 ammas. The third one is 26 ammas. The fourth one, 28. And the final one, 30 ammas. They also protruded more. 1 amma more each one. So it was a design on top of the doorway of the ulam. So this is all concepts and things that there are in the ulam. But what is actually the purpose of the ulam itself? The ulam itself, there's the 2 tables, as you see over here. You see them over here. You see them in probably a better way on either side of the door of the ulam. But these are the 2 tables where they put the lechem upon them. And otherwise, there's no real purpose of the ulam. The ulam is an interesting concept because in a Beis HaMikdash, you need to have an ulam, you need to have a hallway. There doesn't need to be a hallway in the Mishkan, which was a temporary place. There was no need for a hallway. In an established home, in an established palace, there is a hallway on your way in. What happens in the hallway? The hallway is a place where before you go into the palace, you stop and meditate, you stop and think. It's a huge place. It's an awe-inspiring place. Its entire purpose is sort of to hold the person back, to give him time to contemplate before going in. But it's not just a nice room, it's of exact importance. It's of importance for the Mishkan, for the Beis HaMikdash, because without it, it's not considered a Beis HaMikdash. A home has to have this. To the extent that we say you're not allowed to build in your house things that look like the Beis HaMikdash, you're not either allowed to build a hallway, which is like the other one. Meaning that this is something which is an important part of the Beis HaMikdash. The sages tell us a very interesting thing. Hashem says to the Jewish people, Pischu li kichuda shel machat, open up for me like the sharpness of a needle. Vani eftach lachem kepischa shel ulam, I will open for you like the door of the ulam. Hashem says to the Jewish people, when you open up, when you just want, when you just try, when you just want to do what you're supposed to do, it could even be like the sharpness of a needle, which is nothing, it's a tiny hole. Even compared to the person's capabilities, it's a tiny hole. But it's a hole and it's a sharp hole. It's a decision, I'm going to move myself aside. What does the needle do? It moves aside the 2 threads and it gives the ability to draw a thread and to attach 2 things. You want to connect to Hashem, you don't need to do much, you need to decide. I want to do it, and when I want to do it, and I put a sharp decision and I move myself away a little bit, then Hashem opens up like Pischa Shel Ulam, like the door of the Ulam, the largest door. And what's amazing about the Ulam, it has no door on it. It's just a doorway. Once you decide there's no door in your way, there's a curtain, you just go through the curtain. But what you do need to do is go up the steps. Decide that I want to do it. And then the door is as open as possible. It's much bigger than any of the other gates in the Beis HaMikdash. In the first and second Beis HaMikdash, all the gates were 10 amas wide and 20 amas high. The ulam was double the width and double the height. In the third Beis HaMikdash, the gates of the Azara will apparently be 50 amas high and possibly even the gates of the Heichal as well. But in the first and second Beis HaMikdash, all gates was half the size of the ulam. This is when the person decides, I want to, the person can do it. And that's what the ulam is. The ulam is an empty space. An empty space, leaving space for Hashem, but Hashem comes from above and gives us the power to be able to do what we need to do. Now, let's go further to the gates of the actual Heichal. Here you can see the gates of the Heichal. There were 2 gates. There was actually 4 gates. Each one was 5 amas wide. So they opened up like 2 doors. I don't have the picture of the 2 doors here, but picture the idea of 2 doors, 5 amas wide each, 20 amas high. So this way, the 2 of them together fill the 10 amma door space. Next to the gates of the Heichal, there were 2 small doors. Now, these 2 small doors weren't right next to it, because the 2 small doors next to the gate of the Heichal is first a 5 amma space, which is still the interior, because the interior of the Heichal is 20 amas wide. The door is 10 amas. There's 5 amas space on each side. After that 5 amas space, parallel to the thickness of the wall, there's 2 doors, one on the north, one on the south. The south one was always closed. The Navi Yecheskel saw the glory of Hashem coming in through it. In the third Beis HaMikdash, that will be the door, so to speak, set aside for Hashem to come into. That is the door which is on the left side, on the south. On the right side, as you come in, that's the door that's open. That's the door they would go in order to open the gates from the inside. They would open the gates of the Azara from the inside. But let's go now and see more of the interior of the Heichal. Next time, let's go now to the most important part of the Beis HaMikdash, all the way in the back. On the west side of the Heichal was a room which was 20 amas by 20 amas, the square room. The Heichal itself, where we learned yesterday, was the menorah, the shulchan, and the inner mizbeach was 40 amas long by 20 amas wide. So it was double the size of the Kodesh HaKodashim. The menorah and the shulchan and the mizbeach, the inner mizbeach, their place was in the inner third of the Heichal, which means it had to be within the last, say, 12 amas of the Heichal. That's where it had to be. That's where they were closer to the curtain of the Kodesh HaKodashim. The rest of the Heichal was a large room which was empty. Now, when you came to the Kodesh HaKodashim, in the Mishkan, there was one curtain, and that was it, between the Holy and the Holy of Holies, with the curtain separating between it. In the first Beis HaMikdash, they built a wall which was 1 amma thick. And there was a curtain covering that wall for extra concealment. The only one who went in there once a year, the Kohen Gadol, went in there. In the second Beis HaMikdash, they didn't know where to put that wall, because in the first Beis HaMikdash there was 60 amas, 40 amas, 20 amas was the Kodesh HaKodashim, 40 amas was the Kodesh. The wall was either in the part called the Kodesh or in the part called the Kodesh HaKodashim. It was either part of the 40 amma area or part of the 20. They didn't know. So instead, they just made a Kodesh, a complete 20 amas. They made the Kodesh HaKodashim complete 40, the Kodesh HaKodashim complete 20 amas. And the Kodesh is complete 40 amas. And in between, they put 2 curtains with 1 amma in between them. So in the second Beis HaMikdash, there were 2 curtains and there was no wall. In the third Beis HaMikdash, there will be a wall, but that wall will be 2 amas thick. The thickness of the wall of the third Beis HaMikdash will be 2 amas. In the wall, there will be a door. In the third Beis HaMikdash, it doesn't mention anything about a curtain, perhaps suggesting that there is no curtain, but it does mention a door which is 7 amas wide and 8 amas high. An interesting door, which is a very strange, because most of the doors are different types of measurements. That's the dimensions of this door. In the first Beis HaMikdash, in fact, the Kodesh HaKodashim was only 20 amas high. It was 10 amas lower than the rest of the Heichal. The second Beis HaMikdash apparently was the same height. But let's look a little bit at the Kodesh HaKodashim. We don't have over here all we have over here is the Aron. Let's look first of all at the Aron. The Aron, there were 3 boxes, one inside the other. The inner box was gold. Outside of that, there was a wooden box, and the outer box was gold. So the middle box was wood, but you couldn't see the wood at all. The outer box went the highest. In fact, the outer box, the rim around it, the crown around it, covered this, the kapiras, the covering of the Aron. Inside the Aron, the 2 luchas that Moshe Rabbeinu got from Hashem, the broken luchas, and as well as a Sefer Torah was either in the Aron itself, or there was a special drawer, a special shelf inside the Aron that had it. The length of the Aron was 2.5 amma, the width of the Aron 1.5 amma, and the height of the Aron 1.5 amma. The Aron is in half ammas. Most of the cases, almost all, were in whole ammas. It was 2 ammas, 3 ammas. The Aron, everything was in halves. That shows the idea we're half and we're waiting for Hashem's half. We're doing our part. The two kruvim were two angels, two golden angels that were in the form of hugging each other. It was a face of a boy and of a girl. According to the Ramban, they looked like angels. Their faces looked like angels. According to Rashi, their faces looked like young children who study in school. School children. That's how the faces look. School children with wings covering over the kapitas. And Hashem were, when the Jewish people were doing what Hashem wants, they were hugging each other. At the time when the Jewish people were doing what Hashem wants, then they were facing backwards. They were facing the wall. That's on the kruvim. They represent Hashem and the Jewish people.
Akontia, no? What do you want?
The kruvim represent Hashem and the Jewish people. And that concept was the Aron. So this is the holiest part in the Beis HaMikdash. Now, an interesting thing, and perhaps on Sunday we'll continue a little more about the Aron because our time is coming up. But let's look at two important points about the Aron. The dimensions of the Kodesh HaKodashim, the inner sanctuary, the Holy of Holies, was 20 amas long by 20 amas wide. But there is a tradition that the sages had that was passed on from the time of Moshe Rabbeinu. That when Moshe Rabbeinu placed the Aron inside the Holy of Holies, and similarly when Shlomo HaMelech placed the Aron inside the Kodesh HaKodashim, they placed the Aron in the center of the room, and there was 10 amas space on either side. Now, for those who are mathematicians, figure it out. If the room is 20 amas wide, 20 amas long, the Aron itself is 2.5 by 1.5 amas. And yet when you measured from the Aron till the wall, there was 10 amas. From the Aron till the other wall, 10 amas. From this wall of the Aron till the other wall, 10 amas. From this wall, 10 amas. Where did the space of the Aron go? And that's why the sages told us that the area of the Aron did not take up space. But here you have an amazing thing. If the Aron was a spiritual thing that didn't have measurements, that would be fine. We only understand the physical world where everything can be measured. But there are also things that are spiritual that don't have a measurement. The Aron wasn't spiritual. In order for it to be an Aron, it needed to have a measurement. 2.5 amas long, 1.5 amma wide, 1.5 amma high. If it didn't have this measurement, it wouldn't be an Aron. And yet, it had a measurement, and it didn't have a measurement at the same time. This is much more than a miracle. We can perceive in our minds a miracle that God can transform water into blood. He can split the sea and make it become dry land. We can't, he can. That's fine. But we can't perceive in our minds the idea that it could be two opposites at the same time. It both takes up space and doesn't. That's the amazing idea of the Aron, because that is what the Beis HaMikdash is all about. It's not about spirituality per se. It's not about physicality per se. It's about the spiritual and the physical merging to the extent that there is no separation between them. And therefore, if someone measured the Aron, he would find 1.5 amma by 2.5 amma by 1.5 amma. If he measured the Kodesh HaKodashim in the entire room, he would find 20 amas by 20 amas. And yet when he measures up until the Aron, and up until the Aron, he finds 10, and 10, and 10. How does that work? That is where Hashem shows us the idea of spirituality in the physical world itself. And that's something, and we'll continue a little bit more about this, please God, on Sunday. But that's something which is the idea of a Jew, and it teaches us something amazing and powerful in our own way that we serve Hashem. We have two concepts. One concept is that we believe that everything comes from Hashem. Now, it's hard sometimes to believe that, but when a person thinks about it, I may not understand how, but I know that everything comes from Hashem. And therefore, I know that if everything comes from Hashem, Hashem is the ultimate of goodness, and He has my best, meaning my best intention in mind. That's fine. We know something else. We have faith that Hashem will give me good, which I'll be able to see and perceive as good. Okay, that's also a nice concept. That means that physically I'll understand it and I'll recognize it. But here we have two opposites like the other. On one hand, what happened yesterday that I didn't perceive as good, I know that it came from Hashem, and I know that in depth it really is good. And at the same time, regarding what's going to happen tonight and tomorrow, I'm commanded to have complete faith that not only will it be a hidden good, it's going to be a revealed good, and I have to believe that 100%. How can we reconcile the two opposites? That's just like the other. It has a measurement, it doesn't have a measurement. That's what a Jew has the power to do, and that's something which now, as we come to Shabbos of the 3 weeks, which on one hand, we realize that now's the time when Hashem destroyed the Beis HaMikdash, and yet Shabbos gives us the power to reconcile the two opposites, to know that today we're still in Galus, and that's why there's certain limitations of things, what we can do, what we can't do, and yet Shabbos gives us the power to see in the Galus the ultimate good and the ultimate revelation of the time of Mashiach. Good Shabbos.